Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Thomas, welcome. As I look at your record, it continues a pattern of the Biden administration of nominating individuals to the bench who have long careers as activists. Throughout the course of this hearing, you have explained some of your prior positions as simply representing a client. But when I look at your career, I don't see that. I see that you are passionately committed to a particular vision of the law. It has ranged from filing briefs in litigation in the state of Texas, defending race-based discrimination in university admissions, to most consistently transgender activism, and I would submit extremism. And this hasn't been one client you had in one case. This has rather been a consistent pattern that extended when you were a lawyer for the state of California, that extended when you were a lawyer for the U.S. Department of Justice, that extended when you were a lawyer for the state of New York. In 3 different jurisdictions, you have been involved in litigation on the extremes of transgender issues. And in particular, you've carved out an expertise for yourself using litigation to force institutions to allow biological males to use restroom facilities and locker facilities that are also used by girls, young girls, that are used by women. And this has been a pattern. When you were a lawyer for the state of California, you filed a lawsuit against Crunch Fitness, a gym, for not moving quickly enough to allow a biological male to use the women's locker room. When you were a lawyer for the state of New York, you filed briefs against the state of Texas, against the state of North Carolina, again, advocating for biological males to use girls' and women's restrooms. And, you know, the thing I find troubling about these arguments is it seems the women and girls never have any rights. That the girls that would like to shower next to someone who is not a biological male, who would like some privacy, their rights never seem to matter. And your pattern, it's not a single case. It is across 3 jurisdictions over and over again.
Hello, welcome to Next Gen. Buckle up because this one's intense. Senator Ted Cruz just took a judicial nominee to task over their past advocacy for transgender rights. And let's just say, things got heated. We're diving into every detail of this fiery exchange, Cruz's accusations, the nominee's response, and the case that set the room on fire. You don't want to miss this. And hey, before we get into it, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I break down the biggest stories just like this one every single day. All right, let's get into it. So here's the deal. Judge Thomas has been nominated for a federal judgeship, and their past legal work, well, it's catching some serious heat. Cruz isn't holding back. He's accusing Thomas of being an activist rather than an impartial judge, citing multiple cases where they advocated for transgender individuals to use facilities aligning with their gender identity. Now, we've seen heated Senate hearings before, but this one, it's on another level. Cruz goes straight for the jugular, saying, this isn't about representing a client. This is a pattern of extreme activism, and he has receipts. He brings up not 1, not 2, but 3 different cases in California, New York, and Texas, all fighting for transgender individuals' rights in restrooms, locker rooms, and beyond. But here's where things really take a turn.
In the Texas case, the brief you filed said, quote, there is no data or tangible evidence in support of the claim that allowing people to use bathrooms corresponding with their gender identity will lead to increased violence or crime in restrooms. Do you stand by that statement?
Thank you for the question, Senator Cruz. Again, as an advocate, you advocate for the positions of your client. I haven't been an advocate for 3 years. I've been a judge. And when
3 years is not very long. And my question is simple. Do you stand by that statement?
Senator Cruz, it would not be appropriate or consistent with my ethical duties to my former clients to comment on my personal views about any case that I worked on. What my duty was to advocate zealously for my clients. I have set aside the advocacy role, and I now occupy a judicial role, where what you're
Judge,
guided
your
by.
brief also contended, quote, in states where anti-discrimination protections are already the law, the predicted safety harm has never materialized. You made a bold, aggressive, factual statement, by the way. In North Carolina, you said safety concerns were, quote, unfounded. You were an aggressive advocate, an activist advocate. And I believe the statements that you represented to the court, and those are statements that you're making as an officer of the court. I believe they were false, and they are extreme. You testified to this committee that you were not aware of what happened in Loudoun County until this morning. I find that remarkable for someone who has spent years as one of the leading activists for allowing transgender biological men to use girls' restrooms and women's restrooms. In Loudoun County, Scott Smith, who's the parent of a 14-year-old girl, alleged the Loudoun County School Board covered up the sexual assault by a gender-fluid individual against his 9th grade daughter who entered the girls' bathroom in a skirt. And this individual was charged with 2 counts of forcible sodomy, 1 count of anal sodomy, and 1 count of forcible fellatio. The school district covered it up. They released this sexual predator, and the predator committed sexual assault again, twice. Why did you represent to the court that concerns about violent sexual predators committing violent crimes against young girls are unfounded and speculative? Why did you represent that to the court?
Thank you for the question. I advocated on behalf of my clients based upon the data that we had at the time, and I zealously did so in those cases and in every other case that I handled.
Were you right?
Senator Cruz, it would not be appropriate for me to comment on the merits of any personal views regarding litigation that I handled on behalf of my clients.
Well, these little girls who
Senator
were sexually
Cruz,
assaulted
let her respond.
will have a very different
respond.
assessment.
Senator Cruz,
These
let
little
Ms.
girls
Thomas
who were
respond.
assaulted. Thank you for your
Time
views,
is up.
but
You're past time. Let's afford Ms. Thomas an opportunity
she is
to respond to your
perfectly welcome to respond. But as I said, the little girls who were raped in Loudoun County would have a very different assessment of whether this threat and danger is speculative or not, and you're more than welcome to respond.
Thank you. I will just conclude by saying again that I understand the difference between being an advocate and being a judge. I am a judge now, and what I'm guided by is the record before me and the law, and that is what I do now, and it's what I'll continue to do.
Now this is where Cruz plays his biggest card, the Loudoun County incident. A gender-fluid student was accused of sexually assaulting a 9th grade girl in a high school bathroom. Cruz throws this right at Judge Thomas, demanding answers about why their past legal arguments dismissed concerns about public safety. Why did you tell the court that there's no risk when cases like this exist? At this point, the tension in the room? Through the roof! Judge Thomas doesn't back down. They stick to their guns, saying they were just doing their job, advocating based on available data at the time. But Cruz isn't buying it. He keeps pushing, arguing that their legal arguments ignored real-world consequences and dismissed concerns as fear-mongering. Now I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Judge Thomas was just doing their job, or is Cruz right to call this activism? So what happens now? Well, Judge Thomas is still in the running for confirmation, but this exchange will not be forgotten. Cruz's line of questioning just put a massive spotlight on how past legal advocacy impacts judicial nominations. And let's be honest, this debate over transgender rights and public safety, it's far from over. All right, folks, that's the full breakdown. One of the most explosive moments in a Senate hearing we've seen in a while. Now I've got to ask, do you think Cruz was right to press so hard? Or was Judge Thomas just doing their job? Let's debate it in the comments. And if you made it this far, you are a legend. Make sure to subscribe to Next Gen Echoes for more must-watch breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next one.